It gave me a chance to get into the 21st century and learn how to do Zoom so that I can be connected with all of you. I didn't really know what I could offer today. As I was thinking about the talk 2 weeks ago, even though I wasn't with you, I was able to listen to Gail's talk online. And Gail, you gave such a beautiful and moving talk, and it really just covered all of it, all of what we are going through. But here we are 2 weeks later, and we continue to be in the midst of this pandemic. This is still what we are going through. And so this is what's on my heart to talk about. One thing that hit me during this time of the coronavirus or COVID-19, during this time of sheltering in place, this time of social distancing, it hit me how innocent we were prior to this. And we just didn't know. And I mourn the innocence of what we once had. And what we once had was less than 2 months ago. The life that we were living, we took as natural. That as a Sangha, we sat side by side each month and we greeted each other. We shook hands, we held hands, we'd hug without giving it a second thought. When we'd go out with friends, we'd take a bite of our companion's French fries in a restaurant, that we even went to restaurants or invited people to our homes. We said, sure, I'll meet you for coffee or dinner, just because we wanted to and because we could. We would plan trips, and we would fully expect to go. And I'm kind of in awe of how innocent we were, how we took it all for granted. We had no idea that it could be any other way. And I treasure it all now that it's been so quickly taken away. We functioned as if it would never end. And in a way, we thought life would always go on as usual. We know about impermanence, but in many ways, we functioned unaware. And this leads me to think of the innocence of Siddhartha Gautama before he became the Shakyamuni Buddha. He had lived a sheltered life. All he ever saw or experienced was ease and joy and beauty. That's until his eyes were opened when he finally went out beyond the palace wall and into the world, and he saw a blind, poor, and hungry man for the first time. And he saw a sick man for the first time. And then he saw a dead man for the first time. And that was the beginning of his understanding of suffering. That's when he was given a glimpse of something he hadn't known. He understood for the first time that the world is ephemeral, and how shocking that must have been, and how shocking this pandemic in which we now live. When I step outside each morning, I hear the birds singing, and it's sunny, and it's calm, and it's peaceful, and I kind of have to shake my head and wonder. I kind of have to remind myself that we are in the midst of a pandemic because it's so incongruous. Sometimes I just can't believe we're living during a pandemic. That was something we read about, something that happened in old times. But it is real, and it's heartbreaking. And we are experiencing loss of jobs and the closing of businesses, of people dying alone, of those unable to hold the hands of their loved ones as they pass. We're learning of the stress and the fatigue and the dedication of those working in the hospitals and ambulances and firefighters. We're reminded that there are people who are trapped in abusive situations because they have nowhere to go. And that the homeless are suffering and are so very vulnerable because there is no possibility of sheltering safely in place. There's much suffering and sorrow right now. And less just than a few months ago, we were going through life as usual, and now those times seem so long ago. We as Buddhists are reminded of what we know, that nothing is permanent, and that we are truly interconnected. People of every race, religion, economic situation, men and women, children and the elderly, and everyone in between are going through this. It's happening in every part of the world. In fact, I just read that COVID-19 is now spread to an isolated indigenous tribe in the Amazon. There truly is no you and me. There is really only we. We have always been living with the knowing of impermanence, and as Minnesotans especially, we know about constant change. Just last weekend, we had 7-degree temperatures on Saturday. And on that day, I brought all my outdoor furniture from the garage and I arranged it on my porch. And then I sat on my porch without a jacket or a sweater, quite contentedly, out there all afternoon reading my book. And then the next day, as we all know, the wind blew cold and strong and the snow fell consistently throughout the day and night, covering my porch and all my outdoor furniture. Everything is always changing. But even though we know that, we have also been living, as I said, in some ways as if that weren't true, with the comfort of our routines and the ways in which the world regularly functioned that made us feel safe. Even though we understood that, the immenseness of this pandemic, the suddenness of this pandemic is jarring and confusing and traumatic. And because we are humans, we feel frightened and worried. It is unsettling. It is overwhelming. Now, more than ever, we have no choice but to live in the moment because we don't have any kind of a picture of how next year will look, or next month, or actually even what will come tomorrow. And so in this time that feels so abnormal, the pull might be to try to make everything go back to normal. But there is no normal because the world is ephemeral. I'd like to read to you something written by a woman named Jennifer Yeager, who is a trauma specialist. She says, "I want to acknowledge that living through this pandemic is a trauma. And as a trauma specialist, there are a few things that are helpful to know. That parts of our brains have shut down in order to survive. And as a result, we may not be able to fully process a lot of what is going on around us. And feeling somewhat numb or out of touch with our emotions is normal. Some individuals are more apt to feel anxious while others become depressed, but neither means anything other than indicating your predisposition to dealing with extreme stress." She says in-depth processing of trauma happens years later sometimes when we feel emotionally safe with it. And then she closes by saying, in the midst of trauma, just getting by emotionally and functionally is okay. Lowering expectations and being kind to yourself and others is vital. Be kind to yourself and others. That's something we know because we know that the heart of Shin Buddhism is compassion and gratitude. It was the Dharmakara who, understanding the inability for us sentient beings to transform through our own ego-filled efforts, was thus moved by deep compassion to become the Amida Buddha and provide unconditional salvation to all. And it is through this knowing, it is in accepting this gift that we have solace and have answers for this time. And the answer is kindness, compassion. The answer is gratitude. In the writing from the trauma specialist, she concluded by advising, be kind to yourself. And so simply begin by being kind to yourself. Show compassion for your worried self or your scared self or maybe your sad self. This is a very strange time. And so feel whatever you feel, whether it's sorrow or fear, moments of joy or loneliness or longing, just allow them all, knowing no feeling is final. Not putting any new expectations on ourselves is compassionate. And so don't berate yourself for being unable to do anything more than that. Treat yourself with love and kindness and with gentleness. This is compassion. I'd like to read you a poem written by Naomi Shihab Nye in 1995. It's called Kindness. She wrote, "Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all of this must go so you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. How you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road, and you must see how this could be you. How he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, "It is I you have been looking for," and then goes with you everywhere like a shadow or a friend. This poem from 25 years ago seems as if it was written for today with an understanding of what the entire world is going through right now, losing everything, but finding compassion deep within. Arising out of this time of the pandemic, so much kindness and compassion and the very human longing to connect has shown. So many loving, caring, supporting, heartening acts addressing the little and the big, the cumulative losses and our needs. Small and sweet and thoughtful ones, such as a statement made a week ago or so by the Prime Minister of New Zealand, made to soothe small children when she announced that the Easter Bunny and Tooth Fairy were essential workers. And the 10 billboards that are being created right now, they'll be up soon in Minnesota. The plan is to increase the number to 60 billboards by the end of May, and they will appear on freeways. And their intention is solely to provide messages of hope and encouragement during this time. And the Star Tribune on Saturday, they publish a picture for young children to color, created simply as a gift for kids. High schools around the country are turning on lights in their football fields for 20 minutes for the class of 2020 to support the seniors who've lost the chance to walk in cap and gown this year. Even the commercials on TV are providing reassurance to us that we are all in this together. And just the fact that most people are staying in is a kindness in protecting others. When I walk in my neighborhood, we wave to one another. We're strangers and we pass on opposite sides of the street, but the waving is a kindness and a connection. And the earth is experiencing changes. Skies are less polluted. I understand that the air is clear over Los Angeles and that dolphins have returned to the canals of Venice. The sea turtles in Florida are making their nests unimpeded by human foot traffic. Have you noticed how quiet and peaceful it is outside? There's few cars, few airplanes, and you can hear the birds singing and you can hear your own thoughts. So in that sense, it's my hope that we won't go back to normal, but that we will have slowed down and that we continue to be kinder to the earth and to one another and kinder to ourselves. A lot is being said about how to handle this time. And in the beginning of our staying at home, there was a lot of content on the internet and on TV and in the news on how to fill your time, on how to keep busy, on how to be engaged. Exhortations that this is the time to clean out your closets or learn a new language or read the classics or download exercise videos so you can get fit. It was do. On Friday, just a couple days ago, MSN.com published an article entitled 37 Things to Do Before Lockdown Ends. And as I read the list, it was overwhelming to me to learn the 37s I should do. Make pasta, learn magic tricks, pull out your old instrument and brush up on the skills, and the list went on. And if you feel like doing things and if it's enjoyable, please do. But I also want to say, don't feel as if you need to be busy. Don't feel that you need to achieve or to accomplish, because to do nothing is perfectly acceptable. If you want to watch movies all day, or rest, or be silent, or take the time for deep reflection. Take good care of yourself, because that's a kindness to yourself. Wash your hands, stay safe at home, enjoy creative ways you can connect. For example, I meet with a girlfriend of mine we meet for a glass of wine on Monday night at 7 p.m. through our phones. And during the day, I think about which wine I'm going to pour, and I look forward to our chat, and I cherish that little appointment in a way I probably didn't before. So do what brings you comfort, and saying the Nembutsu can bring great comfort. Shinran Shonin said, those who deeply entrust themselves to Amida's vow of great compassion should all say Namu Amida Butsu constantly, whether they are waking or sleeping. Saying the Nembutsu is a grateful response to and an expression of trust in the fulfillment of the primal vow for each and every one of us. Reciting the Nembutsu is an embracing of and an acceptance of the great compassion of the Amida Buddha. It is a knowing that you are enveloped in compassion. It is a voicing of the profound comfort we can have, knowing that we can live without fear no matter what life brings us. Hold this practice in your heart. Hold in your heart the infinite love and compassion that embraces us at every moment, and hold it all with gratitude. For as I said, compassion and gratitude are the heart of Shin Buddhism. Compassion for yourself, for another, for everyone in the world, because we are all affected by this. I'm taking long walks these days through my neighborhood. I walk block after block after block, and I think to myself, oh my gosh, practically everyone is in home. Each home has someone in it, and life is going on in each of these houses, and it hits me again how we're all facing the same pandemic. There are parents inside with little children trying to take care of them while also working online. There are people inside some of the homes who live all alone and maybe feel isolated and afraid. There's someone in one of the houses I pass, I'm sure, whose mother is in a nursing home and they're worried about her. And there's probably someone else who's trying to make a meal with very little food in the cupboard. It is through compassion and gratitude that we realize how interdependent we truly are. And so let us live in gratitude always, and especially during this time. Gratitude for the healthcare workers, the nurses, the doctors, the first responders. Gratitude for the teachers. Gratitude for the workers in the grocery store and the pharmacy, for all those who are working to box up and bring us food, and to manufacture and distribute medical supplies through truck or train or plane or ship, for those who drive those vehicles, for the postal workers, for the restaurant workers, for the garbage collectors, for the essential workers who sacrifice so that we may continue living in relative safety. Gratitude for the moments in life, all the gifts this life provides, even the gifts of this time period. When I used to take walks with my grandchildren, and hopefully we will do it again, I would say to them, let's be completely quiet until we get to the brown house or some kind of a landmark. And then we would walk in silence. And then arriving at the mark, we'd share all that we had heard. And we'd talk about the wind blowing in the leaves, or a bird chirping, or the sound of our foot on the gravel. And the children, they love our little routine. Sometimes when I'm walking, when we're walking together, my grandson Sam will shout, "Silence!" And then we begin our little routine. But on my daily walks now, I have that complete silence. I can listen and I can see during the entire walk, and I have all the time in the world to listen and to see. And I have been really noticing little moments that bring me such joy, and I might not have noticed in the past because of having a lot on my mind or a scheduled day. But they've brought me delight, such as the first crocus, reminding me that the earth is coming alive again, that the trees are in bud and the grass is beginning to green. I had a bit of a chuckle when I walked past a house with a garden in front, and in the garden were several little gnome figurines, and each one was wearing a tiny mask. I see houses with hearts in the window and sidewalks with cheerful, encouraging words written in chalk. And I hear the birds and distinguish the various calls. I am seeing and listening more deeply now. And in the midst of all this suffering, I am immensely grateful for the gifts of stillness and of seeing and of listening. I'd like to close with something written by Reverend Kenryu T. Tsuchi from his book, The Heart of the Buddha-Dharma, Following the Jodo Shinshu Path. Reverend Tsuchi was the first U.S. citizen to serve as bishop to the Buddhist Churches of America and a survivor of the World War II internment camps. Listen. Listen to the voice of the Dharma. Listen to the birds singing in the morning, the wind sighing in the boughs overhead, and the roar of the waves on the beach. Listen to the rain on the roof and the snow falling in the fields. The Dharma speaks to us through the sounds of the world. Forcefully and eloquently and beautifully, it speaks of the unending change around us, the immutable truth of interdependence, and the peace of nature. Do you have the ears to hear and listen? Listen to the Nembutsu in the Hondo, and listen to the noble silence of the Buddha. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu.